This is Red Moon Role-Playing.
We return to our characters, our two accursed who are currently outside of Junction City, in the home of one Donette Brigham. Donette is, only really known by anyone for being one of the survivors of known serial killer, Victor Latendresse. Of course, she has spent much of her life inconspicuously. Shortly after the attack, she moved away from the city itself. She lived in the countryside, barely bothered a single person, and it's quite likely that her name would have fallen off pages, out of people's memories. She would have generally been forgotten by the world entire, were it not for the encounter that led to her departure. Victor Latendresse. What a way to become famous as the victim, or intended victim, of a killer. Still, her name is ascendant once more. She is one small part of a Netflix special, a documentary about the crimes of Victor L., and it is that Netflix special and the crimes of Victor L. that have brought two of our characters, Z, our eight-handed primal, and Monty Pages, Dr. Pages, our Gaki, our spirit-consuming hungry. The two of you are upstairs in her farmhouse and have, of course, discovered that Donette Brigham is a lady lacking limbs and possessing something of a voracious appetite for a particular kind of sustenance that most people are rarely willing to provide: human flesh. Much like the Gaki, Craig, she, as any hungry, can consume blood and can, for the most part, subsist off of it. But there will be times when her damnation is drumming deep in her soul that she needs something a little more substantive. And that's when her and other Iscariots like her have to bite down on some, ideally still warm, though cold will do in a pinch, chunks of human flesh. Hair on or hair off, cooked or not, skinned. It really depends on your appetite. It's perfectly normal within the Iscariots to develop different culinary techniques for how they prepare their meals. Some even convince themselves that it sets them apart from other hungry, because you can have all kind of gourmets and gourmands in this family. Donette doesn't strike you as that kind of character, Dr. Pages. She is propped up here in her bed. She has a smile, a rosy-cheeked face. She looks very healthy facially for a hungry, and seems very pleased to see the both of you.
It's certainly a bit of a surprise. This isn't how I saw things going down. I kind of thought we were going to be dealing with a poor mortal, not one of our own, but then this little mystery keeps getting more and more complicated. Still, there's something to admire about this person's stature. They should by all means be in extreme agony and dead, and yet they are not, and it's hard not to think about her form and want to get out my sketchbook, but this isn't the time or place. No, this is not the time or place for that. I look a little unsure how to proceed. I think I will look to you, Z, and maybe be giving you that signal that I often give of, like, feel free to take the lead here when it comes to the questioning.
There's a slight delay on catching my attention because this woman has my rapt attention. I'm sitting on the bed. I'm partially leaning over. I'm looking her directly in the face because we've just started this investigation and I already have enough ammunition to throw in my family's face where they will never question my judgment or my investigative skills or my network or my contacts or my decision making ever again. The ROI on this investigation already is substantial, and now this beautiful, hideous, horrendous thing is before me, and I feel like it's Christmas morning. So there's a moment where I blink twice and I look to you, Monty, and I nod. I know that face. I know that signal. And I sweep my gaze back to Miss Brigham. Tell us what you didn't tell the others. We're tying a thread between all of you.
Like I said, honey, I am happy to give you what it is you require, but we really should dine together first. It is polite to do that. I would suggest in my home to, when the hostess offers you something to eat, it would be rude to say no.
It would be rude, wasn't it? I heard you the first time. I was hoping we could move both of us past that invitation, but you're going to insist?
Well, unless it offends you. Her eyebrows shoot up as if the very idea would be, well, incredible. Why would you turn down a meal? You enter a friendly, middle-aged lady's farmhouse. She offers you food from her pantry. It's like turning down a cup of tea, Dr. Pages, and you're well known for your making of cups of tea.
I certainly am, and again, my mother did teach me that manners are one of the forefronts of civilization. I smile a little awkwardly and say, well, what did you have in mind?
Well, I can't offer you much, I'm afraid. Mr. Sweeney downstairs has been remiss in stocking our larder, but we do have some scraps for you. Do you like scratchings? She looks to both of you.
Oh.
Rusks, like pork rinds.
Oh, I certainly don't mind them. As you can imagine, my own diet is a little restrictive to a point these days, but
oh, you
why
just
not?
suck the salt right off of them.
Something like that, yes. Why don't we have some of those then? Again, you're so kind to offer, but we don't want to impose too much.
You are not imposing.
Harry! Harry! Bring up a plate of rinds! Rinds!
While she's screaming down the stairs, I throw a look at Monty. Monty knows that I have a low tolerance for arrogant hungry, and that's like 90% of them. That's just always a gap. That's a struggle for me to bridge, that they jump into any situation and just assume that they can drive it. And anyone who's dealing with them has to find a way to accommodate their preferences. And this is just another one of those moments when dealing with the hungry. It's just like, yep, let's all just agree to this unspoken rule that they can't be denied.
I shoot you a look of earnest sympathy. I know exactly how you feel, and I confess it is something I find a bit irritating at times as well. But I do need to be careful. Now we know who this person is. We are in their domain, in their home, and things really do sometimes go a little easier when you just try and be polite, at least initially. I'm really hoping we get some information here.
I'll be up in a moment. There's someone at the door. But don't take long. They got appetites.
Oh, there's someone at the door?
I know. 3 visitors in one day. What a treat. Well, I suppose I can't keep you waiting. What is it then that you wish to know? What I didn't tell others? Was that it? About... oh, so long ago. So long ago, you think she would sweep her fringe, such as it is, it's more of a few trails of hair, away from her brow, but she cannot, and so she blows them away quite effectively. I don't like to linger, you understand, on what was and the life I had before all of this. This is a better life, you see. And she looks at you, her eyes wide, her spectacles falling down her nose slightly. I'm happy here, happier now that I know what I am, what I've always been. Obviously, I didn't tell the Netflix people about this. About everything. You two know what an Iscariot is, I'm guessing.
I am a little acquainted, yes.
I've not had the pleasure with you, sir, or you, ma'am, but I guess there are some families that have worse reputations than others. I do not hold with a bad reputation. Well, anyhow, story went, I was just a young lady back then, I guess 19 years old, and I was just on my way to my shift at the Double Dollar Diner. That's where I worked, the Double Dollar Diner, and just part-time work, you know. It was when I was on my way there, I was making my way from parking lot, and I got confronted by a man I ain't never seen before. But I could tell immediately he meant me harm, and I called out. And it was like I was locked into a hypnotic trance. I suppose now that I'm more aware of these things, he did mesmerize me. He did get in my head. I can picture his face in front of me, his lips moving, but it was like his words were inside my head. It was like he was trying to get inside me. And well, I guess I must have been a little too much for him, because my body rejected him entirely. I pushed him away. This is when I still had arms, you understand. I pushed him away hard as I could. I think that took him by surprise. Based on what the Netflix people told me, I think I'm the first person to have report having done that. At least. And he chased me. He chased me out of that parking lot. He was incensed. He kept saying, "You've got it. You've got it. I love you." I love you, he kept saying. It sounded like a madman. Thankfully, he was making such a ruckus that there was other people around. It was only early in the evening, you see, and we were only just a little ways off the electric mile. And those people, they overheard, they saw, and that was one of those cases where Victor Latendresse, the man in question, was first ID'd as a person of interest, I'm told, in all those murders because, well, people saw him. But you know, of course I was curious. I got away. I got in my place of work. He finally gave up the ghost. And I asked around. Because, of course, eventually the police came by. A couple of cops. They said, "We understand there's been an incident." I didn't want nothing to do with that. I wasn't interested in that. I didn't want to cause a fuss. And let's be clear, the cops in this town ain't the friends of nobody. And I gave them short shrift, I suppose, fair to say. They showed me this photograph. Victor L. I said, "There, that's the man." One of the officers, she leaned over and said, "Do you know him by any other name?" So I didn't know him at all. Because I didn't know him until he came up to me and tried to get into my head. You know, when it was happening, because when the other people who witnessed it and reported on it, and obviously there was a story that got in the papers only a long time after he'd been arrested and he was connected this way and that, they said he wasn't physically threatening me at all. He was just standing across from me, just staring like he was trying to pour something into my mind and through my eyes, and that's exactly what it felt like. It wasn't like he came at me with a knife or nothing. It was just that shabby form. Long black hair, those cold eyes, just staring at me. Well, was what it was. And, well, I never heard from the man again. But that said, it was about a week or two later, I started coming up with all these burns on my body. I thought this was like a nervous reaction. And this is why the press ended up interviewing me, because they said, was he sneaking into your room at night or something like that? Again, I did not get the cops involved. I didn't know nothing about nothing. I didn't know where these came from. It was like my skin was raising up in welts, but they weren't random blisters, like a nervous reaction. They just kept coming up saying, I heart you. Like someone with a ring, a signet ring with one of those shapes, like you'd seal an envelope. I could seared it in a heat and pressed it against me. Do you remember that comic book, The Phantom? I remember my brother used to read that when I was small. The Phantom, purple outfit.
Actually, I do, yes. I used to read it myself.
Oh, I loved that movie with Billy Zane. Well, anyway, he had a skull on his ring. He'd punch you so hard you'd have a skull indentation on your face. It was like that, but with a I heart you.
Are you aware that that particular phrase came up quite a few times regarding some of the other individuals?
I only found that out until the Netflix people told me. The thing is, Mr. Pages, isn't it?
Yes.
Truth of the matter was, I wasn't all that interested. I was 19 years old. Having a strange man walk up to me and try and intimidate me was hardly new. It was late. It was early in the evening. I was on my way to work. There's always creeps and weirdos. She's saying this, obviously disregarding the plates of human meat underneath her bed. And predators all over Junction City. It's just what it is. And so as a 19-year-old who did not know that there was a spate of murders being carried out by this very individual, I didn't give it as much thought as it seems everyone else did.
And all the while, you never suspected that there was anything unusual about Victor. Did you ever think he was, well, one of us in some manner, back then?
Well, you gotta understand, I didn't become like I am now.
Until following the attack?
Some time following the attack, I should say. It was about 10 years later that I started developing my hunger. I was in my late 20s, maybe even 30 years old, when I first developed that taste for people's sins, she says, correcting herself before she says human meat.
You've got it. I love you. And I'm going to whip out my phone, and I am just going to, very quickly, just pull through Google, and I am going to pull up a photo of our dear police commissioner, and I'm just going to show that to Miss Brigham and ask, is this the female officer that interviewed you back then?
Oh, can you push my spectacles back up my nose, please? Don't worry, I won't bite your finger or nothing.
I have to laugh at that because this entire situation is so beautifully absurd. I will push her glasses up her frame and I will get the phone directly wherever it is Her Highness would like it in this moment. Fucking hungry.
She squints a little. Her eyes adjust. Would you like to spend a point of momentum here? Because this was 20 or so years ago.
Ooh, table? How do you guys feel?
Sure. Always happy to spend.
You can always try and jog a memory. This would be, I'd say, empathy and manipulation. But I will allow you to get through it by just spending a point of momentum if you wish. Mainly because I want to see you all burn through your momentum.
I'm sure we'll fail at some point in time to generate more, so I think go ahead and burn it.
Okay, alright. Table consents. Let's rock and roll. I will burn the momentum.
Yeah, so she squints. She slowly nods, her chin's bouncing off of her collarbone. I do believe that is... Yeah, that is the same lady. Well, how'd you figure that? You hear a trudging up the stairs now toward the room.
I immediately lift to my feet because I know he went to go answer the door for someone. I don't know if that's their DoorDash delivery of a human carcass or whether there's a threat coming up with them.
Having let down my powers of sight, I once again will try and activate them. I'm still quite full. And see if I can notice anything. Again, my power isn't total vision at all times. It just reveals the hidden. So is there anything hidden as I look out this room to the staircase?
Well, the door is pulled to, but you can see the shadow looming in from the other side. We're not talking about the same superhero family as the Phantom, when I refer to the shadow, by the way. I am referring to the shadow of a bulky man, you'd guess, with, well, that is definitely the shadow of an axe. It isn't raised over this person's head like he's an executioner, but it is just held there, and you can just make that long shadow out.
I'll take a step back from the door and look over to Z and simply mouth quietly, "An armed friend."
What are you two whispering about?
Oh, we're probably about to find out.
Mr. Sweeney, are you ready yet with the food? The food!
There is no answer from downstairs. I swear he must be busy out in the shed right now. Why don't you just make yourselves comfortable? There's some fold-out chairs there. You sit down. You don't have to occupy my bed. I know there's plenty of room on it, but you get yourself some chairs. We'll have a long chat.
I'm going to look over to Monty, and I'm just going to say out loud, "Is it Perry?"
I click my teeth and confess, and say again quietly, "Not sure. Shall we just quickly go and check on Mr. Sweeney? We'd hate for him to be being inconvenienced by anything. We can help pick up some food."
When he is busy, he does not wish to be disturbed. He's probably just... I tell you what, he may well have picked up some fine cuts of meat and he's just making sure they're ready for you right now, preparing them just so. Tell me, just out of interest, the two of you... And you can see she's salivating a little. She has no way of wiping away the drool that's accumulating at the corners of her mouth.
May I close in on her before she starts talking too much with this distraction strategy that she thinks that we can't see through? Grab her by the hair and just drag her into the corner of the room.
Wow.
I mean, this is like full head of hair, snapping her neck so I don't have to worry about teeth in my wrist. And I'm just going to drag this torso flat onto the ground and drag her to the corner of the room and just sit her in front of me in anticipation of what's coming through this door.
Well, there is no way that action does not make a flurry of noise. Her shrieking, her thumping onto the ground, you dragging her into the corner, and of course the door, well, it's not locked, but it is kicked in and swings, smacks against the wall. And you can see Mr. Sweeney there, his expression has changed. It's more hangdog. His eyes are just gently focused, not on you, but upward. His mouth slightly ajar. And the axe in his hands. You are both sinners, and I must prepare for dinner. At which point he advances into the room. Meanwhile, back at the Let Go bar, a cop bar deep in the heart of Junction City, just outside the Central Police Headquarters. It's where most of the office cops go, but a great many of the precincts beat cops will make their way here, as well as Silas, in the form of Kenneth, has found. He was waiting here at the bar, nursing a drink delivered to him by the delightful bar steward, Sheila, who was being quite friendly with him despite his clearly not belonging in a place like this, when, as if by serendipity, or indeed the expenditure of a cursed die, the much sought-out police commissioner, Lee Fry, had walked on in, apparently to celebrate the closure of a case she was buying around for all of the officers in the joint, and then stood next to you after examining her expression in the mirror for a while. She turned to you and asked, "What is a dead like you doing in a bar like this?"
And Silas just smiled back at that question.
"Don't worry," she says, smiling herself. "This isn't a breach of territory or anything like that."
That's good to know. Are you, able to talk business, or do we need to go someplace else?
Oh, no one will come up to me to initiate a conversation. Don't worry, we're not going to be interrupted. Speak your mind. Why are you here? What do the dead need?
Well, it's not the dead so much as specifically me. And I'm looking into a name you might be familiar with. Victor Latendresse.
She keeps smiling, but now you can see those teeth. Yes, he's been quite the talk of the town since Netflix came around.
Yeah, he's a fucking cause celeb, that's for sure.
Why is it that he interests you?
You know, I could sit here and tell you that it's old business or something equally kind of vague but kind of standoffish, but truth is, I want to close my ledgers. He caused me some problems in the past, and I'm tired of him floating around.
I see. Well, you have to excuse if any conversation we do have turns into interrogation, and she leans forward a little, as if sharing a laugh. That is my job, or was, I suppose, when I was a regular patrol officer and then detective.
Mm-hmm.
But look at me now. I don't tend to get in the hutch with a suspect. Old habits die hard.
So you miss it?
I miss the acquisition of information in that way. Now I get it in different ways, and it's satisfying. It scratches a different itch.
Yeah, sure. No, you like to get your hands dirty. I can understand that.
Well, you clearly do.
Oh, yeah.
So, Victor Latendresse, well, I will be candid with you. What's your name?
Just call me Silas.
Silas. Well, you obviously know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And you obviously know, whether it's because you watched that damn thing on Netflix or not, that Latendresse... And she pauses there, rubs her cheek rather absently. Attacked me some 25 years ago now. I was much younger then. Well, 25 years younger, I suppose. And I've done my interviews, and you're clearly not some kind of celebrity chaser or running a true crime podcast because you don't have your mobile phone out.
I don't even know what a podcast is.
Do you know talk radio?
Yeah. They babble on about nothing.
Like that, exactly. Everyone is all of a sudden an expert on everything.
Oh,
I tell you, it's the bane of information media.
Sounds horrible.
Oh, like you wouldn't believe. But yes, so you know me. I'll permit you your questions, Silas, but you'll have to permit me my privacy. I don't share everything that there is to know about my experience with Mr. Latendresse because, as you can imagine, it was fairly traumatic.
That's fair. I mean, you're giving me your time free and gratis, so I'm not going to impose too much, but you won't mind if I maybe fill in some gaps with some information I already have too, if that comes to that.
Oh, you style yourself a PI?
I suppose.
That's fine. You don't need a license to be a private investigator in this state, so you can ask. You can even concealed carry if you want. I wouldn't recommend it in a cop bar. People might get the wrong idea.
Yeah, it's like a bad fucking idea.
Yeah. So she finally takes a seat on the stool next to yours. She's obviously prepared for whatever you have in mind. But you can tell just from a read of her frankly inscrutable expression that she is not someone disposed to just giving things out freely.
Silas kind of looks her up and down. It seems like his ploy of trying to trick her into actually giving it up freely didn't work out the way he'd hoped. So instead, I'm going to use the quick read merits I have, which is basically Sherlock Holmes bullshit. So I can ask a question about small mundane details.
Yeah.
What kind of thing is she looking for here?
You're trying to determine what she is looking for.
Yeah, is she looking for money? Is she looking for information? Is she looking for sexual favors? What is she wanting to get out of this conversation?
She wants information, pretty much as badly as you do, maybe more so. In fact, even though it is a trivial piece of information, I would say for her, it is probably quite significant as a part of who she is. Information is how she got to where she is today. So she is not going to let up on finding out why you are interested. And so I'll go a little further than that, Eddy, and say the best way to get answers out of this person from your read on her is to be honest. If she thinks you're hiding something, she's not going to stop until she gets the answers she wants.
Silas looks her up and down. He's still settling in, although it's getting easier now. The eyes are focusing, the movements are a little smoother. He's getting a little more used to the nooks and crannies of Kenneth. And finally he says, all right, you know what? I'm not going to buffalo you. Let's be honest about this. I'm not a PI in a traditional sense. I'm doing a favor for my family, but also I'm reasonably sure this guy killed a sister of mine. So I think he needs to go away. And I'm not talking go away in your official job sense. Fucking go away, go away. If you want to help me with that, I'll take it. If you don't want to help me with that, I understand.
Her cheek twitches a little when you say that he killed your sister, or you suspect it. And her expression drops a little before resetting. You have my condolences. I obviously have first-hand experience of this man being a particularly vile customer, and clearly I am aware that he is something more than just human. He is, well, I never actually ascertained exactly what, but I assumed a dead like you.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of putting him away permanently, it's been my understanding that that is exactly what happened on the way to Cold Mountain Penitentiary. Do you mind if I speak candidly, Silas?
It's your dime.
Well, simply put, it always surprised me because you have to understand, when the attack happened, I wasn't as I am now. I wasn't long after that I became what I am.
Mm-hmm.
But, regardless, when I became aware of what he was, what I suspected he was, the biggest question in my mind was, why did he not just leave his body? Because I always assumed he's dead. He is one of the dead. Mm-hmm. I always had the impression that he was trying to take possession of me. That he was trying to force me to do something against my will, and he very nearly managed it. There were points, blackout points, where it's admittedly, I have the added penalty of age here, but I think my memory of that night is fairly clear, and there are points, blackout points, where I think he was in control of me, and I can't recall what happened. But I know that he was trying to drive me to something, and of course now I would be calling it like it is. I think he was trying to get me to self-destruct.
Okay, that tracks.
Now, why it happened the way it happened, how or what made him leave and stop with me. She stops, she smiles, she looks down. Anyway, I wasn't killed. Oh, he left one of his marks on me, but he didn't kill me.
I heart not.
She smiles at you again. Yes, well, he was ultimately arrested. He was careless, left some evidence somewhere, somehow. I'm not really entirely sure how that occurred, because if the MO that I suspected was actually what he was using, there was no evidence to ever leave. But he was caught. I was a rookie in training, more or less. I was a beat cop around that time, not doing much of any good. I certainly wasn't involved in the case that saw him arrested. Far too high profile for that. But he was arrested. He was interrogated. He didn't say much. I've listened to those tapes. I have listened to them a lot. And at that, her face darkens. Many, many times. At first I was trying to hear for some kind of indication as to why he picked the people he did. Would he talk about me? And after the interrogation, lengthy as it was, but all the evidence pointed toward him, he was found guilty, didn't do much in his defense, was on his way down to the electric chair in Cold Mountain Penitentiary, because that was where he was supposed to be incarcerated. And then the van crashed. He disappeared. Body and all. But all of that said, the thing that never really made sense to me was why he would even go that far. He could have at any point during that process just left that vessel and found a new one. Mm-hmm. Completely untraceable. So, Silas, my suspicion has always been that he, not to reduce him to less than he was, that there was probably a sense of him that enjoyed the game of it. He wanted to see how far he could push it. Or, and this is, I suppose, the resolution I don't like to even consider he was capable of, because it would imply he had a modicum of guilt or shame to him, that he felt he had done his work, and he was ready for whatever the end happened to be. And I've told various versions of that story to people who have interviewed me over the years, but my accomplishments as police commissioner, she sits up straight now, have far outshone being the intended victim of a multiple murderer.
And it should. That shouldn't dictate your life.
And it hasn't. On that, make an empathy and cunning roll, or empathy and composure. I'll allow you either.
It's 3 hits.
Oh, it most definitely has dominated her life.
Right. So let me share some information I found that we could put together. in whatever configuration works best for you. You say Victor's later undress disappeared from the van.
Yes.
His latest victim, shot in the chest. As far as I could tell, she was possessed, shot herself. But the gun's missing.
When was this? She says, looking away from you and into the mirror across the bar again.
24 to 48 hours, a little unsure as to exact time frame. But the corpse is in your morgue.
So a corpse that's, well, someone killed themselves. And why are you attaching this to Victor Latendresse?
Because she was someone who got away last time.
I see.
So I think he's somehow gotten access to a liminal space. Maybe that's how he escaped last time. Maybe how he stashed his weapon this time. Certainly would make evidence pretty easy to get rid of, and also pretty easy to plant.
She swallows. Her left fist clenches. I see. Yes, there was a report of a Jane Doe 24 hours ago. Alley in... off the Electric Mile. Suicide. She's rubbing her forehead now. Not my direct responsibility, you understand, Silas. Not my direct responsibility. I'm the commissioner. I'm not a detective.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the detectives these days, it's not like they were wonder workers in the 1990s, but now it's anything they can do to close a case. Suicide, of course, suicide. Must be. Let me guess. You mentioned stash the weapon. I'm guessing, despite the clear indication of suicide, no actual logistical way that it could have been a suicide.
She was shot in the chest with a shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
You don't kill yourself with a shotgun and then get rid of the weapon after you shot yourself with a shotgun.
Well, unless someone stole it from the body, and there are some people in the city that would do something like that.
Right. Well, I didn't find any indication of that. And to be clear, since we're sharing information, that woman is Sophie Pace, and she was found in the alley where she was almost killed last time.
Yes. I know Sophie Pace by name.
I'm just putting all the cards on the table. So that's the only way I got to play this.
Do you know how... And at this point, there are some of the cops in the bar who are watching this conversation. Not out of investigative curiosity. They're wondering, why does the commissioner all of a sudden look sick? Like you are breaking some terrible news to her. And why are you not behaving like someone breaking terrible news to her? Because to any onlooker, you are... quite frankly, almost a starched, rigid corpse. Well, you are an unfamiliar body, sat pretty much upright against a bar, delivering news to a woman who is steadily collapsing in on herself.
So Silas will try to loosen up his body language a little bit, hunch down a little bit more, but... he's still in investigation mode. He's still trying to hunt down the scents, and so he's not going to be worrying too much about covering up his intentions here.
Yeah, I don't think I can really express to you right now, Silas, what it's like, but allow me to try. And she shoots you a look. She's now not looking at the mirror again. It seems to be important to this lady where she is looking at any given time. Maybe she's very aware of what it is to look vulnerable or put up a wall of resistance. And right now she is allowing a chink in that armour to become visible, because you can see the It's not the tears in her eyes. It's almost like they're steadily draining to become bloodshot. It's like she's on the brink of something vicious, and she looks at you with these bloodshot eyes as if she'd been rubbing them for minutes on end. I need information like this. It fills me up, and yet it makes me sick. When you are talking, it's like you are pouring ambrosia into my ears, and you're filling my soul with vitality. But every word you're speaking is setting off each nerve in my body. I'm sitting here in pain right now. And yet I want you to continue. I want you to keep telling me everything you know, because this information is like liquid gold for me. Pour it in. Tell me your theories, what else you know. I didn't get where I am today by having people stop when it became uncomfortable.
Silas falls silent for a second and is rapidly backpedaling in his head, because this has gone from going well to going way too well, and he's starting to consider what his exit strategy is going to be. He might have to actually just leave this body behind, and maybe plan B. But you're going to stick with plan A. He's going to try to brazen it out, and so he glances around at the other cops, and he says, "If I keep going, your boys don't look too happy about what I'm telling you."
Never mind them.
I kind of mind them. I gotta be sure that I'm gonna walk out of here with this body intact. Just got it.
She's breathing heavily now. That tells you she's not hungry, at least. She's something else that requires this kind of information. You're getting an inclination at this point that she is probably some kind of sorcerer.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily your forte to know all about the sorcerer families, but you've heard of this kind of thing before. The just hunger for acquisition, the need for information, intelligence, that can drive them to some dire straits indeed. And so she reaches out and she grabs your wrist. Please, if you know something that you're not telling me right now, you probably should just open that sweet little mouth of yours and let the words fall free. Don't make me extract them from you. Like teeth.
I think there's a chance for a much more long-term relationship. I can give you a feast now, or I can give you a lot of food over time.
I'm not... And she lowers her voice to this. I'm not a vampire. I am... I'm not insatiable. It's this... And she is clearly trying to restrain herself because, yeah, there is definitely something vampiric about her. There is definitely something very reminiscent of a hungry about her. You have rarely seen an accursed exemplify, well, quite so many almost damnations all in one person. This can't all be tied to the fact that she is a high-status individual in the city. But you have most definitely heard tell of a cursed who gets so entangled in curses, so wrapped up in damnations, they become something more or, well, considerably less than their original lineage. They just become warped and perverted. And you can see she is very much on the edge of that. Well, maybe even stepping well over the edge of that. And so she looks at you through hooded eyes. And she tries to pull it together. I need you to try your best, if you want to try and pacify her here, Eddy. It's your choice. Do you want to try and pacify her by selling you want a long-term relationship?
I do. I am going to put an edge of a threat into this. It's like, I want this long-term relationship. If you don't, I'm going to leave, and you're going to be seen by a lot of people holding a corpse all of a sudden.
Okay, I'm telling you right now, there is most certainly a risk of putting a threat in there. So let's go for... you can go for persuasion, or you could probably use leadership because you are trying to compel some kind of order here. But persuasion is fine. And up to you whether you're going for presence or manipulation here, Eddy.
Definitely manipulation. And I'll keep it to persuasion. I'm just gonna... Because I just want to make... definitely pitching it more like it is a threat, but it is more like I will defend myself, not I want to do this.
Yeah, you are going to have to overcome her integrity. This is a difficulty of 3. And there is a complication as well, because this is not an easy roll. There is a moderate complication, so really we're looking for 5 hits here. If you want to clear the whole board. The moderate complication is another cop will step over and intercede to basically say, hey, Commish, is this outsider bothering you? That is at the lowest risk. If you do something that really antagonizes her, if you fail the difficulty as well, you may well get a cop tell you to get down on the ground now, or words to that effect.
I would like to argue, if I could, that the information I have about a person that really traumatized her is worth a couple of points of enhancement on this roll.
So you're looking to use some of that momentum, or no, you want the enhancement, the automatic enhancement. Ooh,
right, because this is the person she really wants. If she gets rid of me, she won't have access to information. So my argument is that if I get at least one hit, I can enhance it because I have this vital information.
I tell you what, because this is a double-edged sword. Yes, it's an enhancement. She wants the information, but she is so ready to boil over. I'll give you 1 enhancement, therefore essentially reducing the complication to minor, effectively.
I'm not going to spend any momentum yet.
No, you can do it after if you want to buy any enhancements.
Currently have 0.
Would you like to take the cruel failure?
No, I think I would like to spend the momentum to get the base success. I'll deal with the cop. So I'll take the successful consequence.
Okay. Alright then. So you buy off the difficulty. She backs up almost as if you've splashed water in her face. She regains her composure with a deep inhalation, at which point a lieutenant steps over. Commish! This guy... What's going on? Is he bothering you?
She's holding my wrist still, right?
Yes, she looks at the lieutenant, she looks at you. It's just you look pretty wound up, Commish. And she looks at you again. What are you doing? Are you just sitting there?
Watching her.
And her eyes are doing that ping-pong game, going back from the lieutenant to you, to the lieutenant to you. It's alright, I'll call if I need any help, Smith. You got it, I won't be far, I'm just down the bar. Yes, I get it. She lets go of your wrist. Okay, there are some things we can talk about. Let's take a drive.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we play the scenario Suffer My Sins for Curseborne, which is published by Onyx Path Publishing. Story guide was Matthew Dawkins, and we were also joined by Bridgett, Jeffries, and Eddy Webb. The music was created by Atrium Carceri and was used with permission from their label, Cryochamber. Please check out cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for more of their lovely dark ambient. We would love to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Simon Cooper, David, Julia, Camilla, Bob Lange, Cameron, Graham Barey, Doug Thomson, Lily, Mike Parker, and Maciej for their generous support. And we would of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to our Call of Cthulhu bonus campaign, Shadows of Yog-Sothoth, with Matthew as our keeper, as well as bonus campaigns for Cult of Divinity Lost and Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. On top of that, we also offer early and raw access to all of our recordings, and you can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon. Finally, you could also play some Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember that the world is cursed.